Welcome to the Hastings Shadmehry Show with your hosts, Andy Hastings and Mally Shadmehry. Dive into the heart of family law as Andy and Mally bring clarity to legal challenges, celebrate client victories, and share the wisdom of their combined expertise. Get ready for a journey into empowerment and advocacy right here where your story matters.
Hello, and welcome to the Hastings Shadmehry Show, where we delve into the heart of family law and the stories that shape our lives. I'm Mally Shadmehry, and congratulations to you. You get a solo episode, just me and you today. We're just going to shoot the shit, if you will. I'm actually going to be talking about jury trials, and should you do them, and why could that benefit you? I think it's something that's not really talked about frequently, and it needs to be. So I'm going to unravel that mystery for you just a little bit. But the question everybody wants to know, am I a warrior or a diplomat today? I'm a warrior. I am such a warrior. I'm ready to fight. I haven't been in court in a little while, so, mama gets a little bit bored. She needs the action. I'm taking a really big case, and it's just my cup of tea. It's this guy that he has trial in 1 week. Actually, it's like 10 days or so. And he said, my lawyer is not going to advocate for me like I know you will. And I used to represent him in a previous case, so he knows what can happen in the courtroom. And we have a rapport together in the courtroom. So he can compare, past experience in court to the current one with his lawyer. He said, I don't feel safe doing my divorce trial with anyone but you. And of course, I'm excited. I'm like, yes, I'd love to help you. I love you, but it's going to cost you because I've got a week to get ready. And we just had our conversation, and I took the case, and he's able to pay. You get what you pay for, and those can be hard conversations, but he's doing it. And what it means is, so I'm about to go out of town. Tomorrow's Thursday. I'm going out of town for a seminar for family law the next couple days. And when I get back on Monday, the world better watch out, because it's trial prep mode. We got 5 days, really 7 if I want to work the weekend, but lawyers try not to work weekends. You come to the table more balanced and ready to advocate and be a true warrior. If you can have work-life balance, do your weekend, and then go to court Monday and slay. So that's the goal. I'll get back Monday, and I am going to shred this case for this man. And I'm very excited. He wants primary physical custody of his child, and some things with the assets and debts. And I'm going to do it. This case has been going on for a couple years, and I love nothing more than a challenge, and nothing more than those trials that my clients feel like I'm just destined to lose. I need someone to help me. That's my cup of tea. To me, that right there is like dangling a piece of raw meat in front of a lion, and I'm going to go for it and swallow it whole, and I'm still going to be hungry for more. So I'm a warrior, and I'm excited to get away for the weekend with some of the ladies from my firm, go experience some seminar stuff on family law issues over in Hilton Head. I also just got back from Spain a couple of days ago, so I'm still jet lagging. I went for 9 days with my family, and it was just beautiful. That's a whole nother topic. It was amazing. And you want another random update? I can't see out of my right eye. Like right now, I'm really driven to want to do this to y'all, this entire podcast, because everything's more clear that way. So I'm going to the eye doctor in the morning. We're going to figure it out. Apparently my stigmatism or whatever has changed, and I believe it was brought on by stress. Again, a whole nother topic. So I'm seeing out of one eye. I'm going to Hilton Head tomorrow. I dropped my dogs off at the border today, and I cried when I dropped them off, and I missed them. They were at the border for 9 days, and I talked about them every day to my family, picked them up for a couple nights, and now they're back, and I miss them. The border was like, hello again to Stormy and Cohen. And another fun fact, my border, one of the women that works at the border, named her son after my dog Cohen, and she brings it up every time, and I'm like, that's the biggest honor for that sweet boy. Cohen killed a baby bird the other day, and it broke my heart. I also cried at that, believe it or not. The lady that's the warrior in the courtroom who's got a tough armor on most of the time, she's actually a baby on the inside. That's me. I'm a big baby. I'm a big softie on the inside, which I think actually makes the best trial attorneys. You got to have heart and passion and armor. And I am sitting in my backyard, and all of a sudden I see these birds that are like really upset. There's two parents, a mom and a dad. They're like flying around. I'm like, what? Why are y'all pissed off? Like, what's happening in my backyard? I look up. Cohen is devouring a baby bird. And it was the mom and the dad were like trying to stop him. It was long gone. It was so bad. Then I'm like screaming bloody murder because I'm like, oh my God, he's eating dead shit. Like, no. So That was a travesty, and that's my Cohen bear, and there's a baby named after him. So those are my updates for you. So let's get into it. This was actually inspired by a judge. His name's Chris Edwards, that came and spoke to the lawyers at my firm about jury trials. And I'll tell you right now, it takes a special lawyer to enjoy a jury trial and to be good at it. There's not many family law attorneys that focus only in the area of family law that have done a lot of jury trials, in Georgia anyway. And Georgia is one of the only states in the country that allows a jury trial in a divorce case. And I personally think we need to see more jury trials in divorces. And I'm so sorry to the judges that see this that are maybe not going to like that, but that's my honest opinion. And I'm a trial girl, so my heart's going to put me in these warrior-like situations. And so I'm going to explain to you there's going to be more than this, but one of the sort of nuanced reasons as to why a jury trial could be really beneficial and what you might be missing out on if you don't have a lawyer that's going to say, let's go for that jury trial. Let's go for the jugular. I'm not intimidated by that. Because a lot of times, at least in Georgia, you're going to see that a family law attorney is very intimidated by the concept of a jury trial. And a lot of times what I see is that attorneys that dabble, they do some criminal law, some family law, they are more inclined to go do the jury trials because criminal attorneys are in jury trials more often. And in fact, in my experience, I think some criminal attorneys have thought that demanding a jury trial was going to scare me as the family law attorney because we're known for not going to jury trials as much. That's an insider secret for you. But little did they know, I love a jury trial and I've done several. So here's the concept we're going to discuss. It has to do with equitable division, and we've talked about it on this podcast before, so go back and reference other episodes if you want some more primers on that. But here's the rundown. Actually, I'm going to start it with just telling you a war story, a story that I'll never forget. It was a trial that I had probably 7 years ago. It was not a jury trial. It was a bench trial. That's a trial where the judge is your audience. Bench trial means the judge is sitting at the bench and they're the fact finder. They're the person that's going to make the decision. So you have a bench trial or a jury trial. So this divorce, it was a divorce. The parties had been married. I'm not going to remember the concrete details because it was a while ago, but it was at least a 25-year marriage, probably more like 30. The parties were older. They were in their 50s or 60s. They had grown children. And, oh my God, the husband represented himself, which is always a disaster. And he did everything he could to hold up this case, to increase my client's costs on me, just anything he could do to just hold things up. This was just the kind of person that he was. Throughout the marriage, he was incredibly abusive. He would chase my client around the house with a butcher knife, threatening to stab her. By the way, I've totally had cases where people have broken into windows and stabbed. I haven't had a client get stabbed in the neck. Crazy, crazy, crazy scenarios. And this is all going to make sense in a minute. How does this impact what a judge is going to do with the money in your case? How does conduct impact what a judge does with the money in your case? So this man would chase my client around the kitchen with a butcher knife. I remember one specific story that I don't remember what he was angry about. Something stupid, something very inconsequential, but his little ego couldn't take it. And my client was tiny. She was like probably 5'1", precious, also extremely smart. She was the breadwinner for this family. Actually, the husband hadn't worked for like 15 years. She carried everything for this family. And what happens is, on this occasion, so I'll never forget this. He's upset with her. And he goes beyond just the butcher knife. He grabs his gun. I don't remember what kind of gun it was. Chases her around the house with it. Puts her in a closet and holds her in a headlock. Closes the door. I think the lights were on in the closet. And so she's 5'1" and tiny, working all the time. I'm not going to say what her job was, but she made pretty good money. I think she made about $200 a year and really supported this family and him. And I don't remember what he did in his time. It was weird stuff. Like he did like he would go to thrift stores a lot. I just remember him kind of appearing like a hoarder. And he closes the closet door. He's like 6'5" and probably 300 pounds. And my client is teeny. Headlock, gets her on the floor, holds her there with the gun to her head for 2 hours. Just torture just torture. I mean, he probably had personality disorder, something going on. And I want to say she stayed married to him for a couple years even after that. So throughout this, let's call it 25, 30-year marriage, because of how hard she worked, and even when he did work, it was like very back and forth. He couldn't hold a job very often, and she held down that fort, and she was a good wife to him. She supported him, whatever he wanted to do, raised their children, worked her behind off. They acquired assets and debts, as you do during a marriage. And from what I remember, their estate was fairly, healthy. I don't think they had a ton of money. It was probably somewhere around $1 million that they had acquired between some real property, some retirement, and the company she worked for had some really good investments, I think, too. And so that was on the table. And remember, I told you, she was the one that was invested in this company, building her reputation, working so hard to keep making more. And she increased her earnings over the years so much. Got stock in the company, of course, acquired retirement. They bought real property, all because of her efforts. Truly. She's the one working, being responsible. He would do things like go to the store and buy 5 TVs that they did not need. Don't ask me why. He just did. So he would also like swindle away their money on stuff they didn't need. So we go to trial, finally. I remember it just took a long time to get to trial for procedural reasons and whatever. Finally get to trial. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. This concept of equitable division means, what do you do with the assets and the debts? Okay? Assets and debts that have been acquired during the marriage, they go into the marital pot, which means the judge or the jury, whichever one you pick, they are in charge of splitting it. And they're in charge of splitting it fairly. Because remember, Georgia is an equitable division state, which means fair division. It means we don't automatically just divide things 50-50. That's not what the law says. The law says that the fact finder, whether that's the judge or the jury, they can consider conduct in determining how to divide the marital estate, how to divide the assets and the debts. So wouldn't it seem fair to you that if this woman's been brutally abused for years, she's been the breadwinner, she's stood by his side throughout the abuse, raised the children, was responsible with finances, and because of her efforts, they acquired this, let's call it this $1 million estate. Don't you think, doesn't your heart and your logic tell you that it would be fair under the common dictionary term of fairness, that she should get a little more out of that estate, that we shouldn't just divide it 50-50? Why should that asshole that treated her like that get to appreciate her efforts after what he put her through? Because don't forget, in Georgia, we have 13 different grounds for divorce. And those include things not only irretrievably broken, but cruel treatment, which we pled under cruel treatment, and we have adultery, habitual intoxication. How come the law allows for us to have different grounds for divorce if the judge isn't going to, really come down hard and split assets based on people's behavior? I don't know if that made sense, but it should make sense in a minute. So what the judge did in that case, he divided the estate 50-50, and I was livid with him. And I think the husband was asking for alimony and all kinds of stuff, and he didn't get that. But the estate was divided 50-50, and that is not the first or last time that that's happened to me. And my advice to my clients is typically, look, if you're going to be doing a trial, if we end up in trial and we don't settle, expect that your estate is getting divided 50-50. The best way in front of a judge, not a jury, when you're in a bench trial, the best way to get more than 50-50 on your estate is that the other party has dissipated things, like they hid money. Maybe we've seen this a lot. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a girlfriend or a boyfriend, whatever extramarital behavior that they've spent. They've spent marital money on an extramarital lifestyle. Well, we're able to go and calculate how much did you spend on that. That needs to be added back into the estate, and the other party needs to be paid back. So really, they'll get more than 50% of what remains to make up for what was wasted. Things like spending a lot of money. I see strip clubs. I see a lot of money spent on drugs, alcohol, those kinds of things. Sometimes that stuff really adds up, and a judge might be more inclined then to say, look, I'm giving so-and-so more out of this because you wasted marital money, and that money should still be here today but for your behavior. But what the law says is that it's just in the fact finder's discretion. So like if the judge just doesn't like you and doesn't like your behavior and says, I don't think this behavior is appropriate in society, that's not what we stand for, you shouldn't get all the marital estate, or you shouldn't get 50%. I'm going to give him or her more because under the facts, that's what seems fair here. All right. Well, how come it's the norm? How come it's the norm that judges want to divide things 50-50? even though we have these terrible facts and this stuff that it doesn't make sense under logic and heart and your spirit and everything else, and under how the law is designed. Doesn't make sense that how come the law says we don't have to divide it 50-50, but that's become the norm. And what I usually tell my clients is, look, I suspect that judges are a bit desensitized. They see the worst of the worst, the crazy things in the world that are very real, that most people might be naive to, that yes, evil does exist. We get to see that with what we do for work in family law. And these judges, they get to see the worst of the worst and the scariest of the scariest. So for the longest time, I thought they're desensitized. They don't care about really who gets what. They want to divide it 50-50 because to them, none of it's really a big deal anymore. They're desensitized. Then what I've started to learn, and what I believe, and what this judge had taught us recently, is another mindset that surrounds this, which is judges could be, can't speak for all the judges, and there are so many judges that I just adore and look up to, and they're my mentors. So maybe they'll come join us on a podcast one day and talk to me about this. But here's my hypothesis. I think that judges are inclined to get cases off their docket and not keep the courtrooms clogged up and not spend taxpayer money on these resources. They want to drive settlement. They want what, I'm not going to say it how Judge Edwards said it. That's for him. That's his story. But basically, how can I say it without stealing his words? Judges don't want to be stuck listening to trials for hours and going through the emotional trauma and reading so-and-so's diary on the stand, and this is how he hurt her feelings, and these are the text messages that were sent that were brutally damaging to her mental health. They don't want to hear the details about how much that this person was abused. Basically, they'll usually say, look, I've got it. You don't have to keep harping on this. I understand that this was the situation. But the litigant is the person that lived this for 30 years. And they're the person that's going to have to go back out into society and heal. And to me, I think they deserve a little bit more if they've really been through the ringer, and the law allows for it. And what I think is happening is that judges want to see cases get off the docket, get out. Don't load up my calendar. I don't have time for this. And I don't want to sit for 3 days and listen to how badly you were abused because I'm just going to divide it 50-50 anyway. So get used to it. So now what we have is an established sort of history on the bench of 50-50. We're going to divide the estate 50-50. So what does that teach our lawyers? Teaches them to settle for 50-50. Because they already know if you go to trial, you're going to get 50-50. So even if you feel like the facts are in your favor and you have a bench trial coming up with a judge, you're like, he's going to divide it or she's going to divide it 50-50 anyway. So client, do you want to spend $30,000 on this trial to try to go get a little bit more? Or do you just want to take 50-50 and eat it? And so that's become the reality unless you do a jury trial. The best way to get more than 50% out of your marital estate is to have a jury trial, where you have a panel of strangers that will sit and hear your story. They are more inclined to follow what the law says and say, hey, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair. And there's no formula to it. You don't plug numbers in to a worksheet like you do for child support and it spits out how should we divide the estate. This is based on the fact finder's opinion. And to do that and to determine what is fair, I mean, the meaning of equitable means fair. Equitable division means fair division. So conduct has to be considered in order to determine what's fair. The jurors are typically, in my experience and from what Judge Edwards has taught us, they are going to be ready to listen and they're going to connect more and they are going to apply the law and they're not driven to keep cases off the docket. They're not trained like a judge. They don't know what's going on with all that. And what you have to be careful for is that jury trials they are more expensive. You have to prepare differently. Jury trials are not for everyone. Do not listen to this podcast and say, that's it, I'm going for a jury trial. No. You do a consultation with an attorney and they'll talk through with you, is this a good option for you? For me, it's not on the table to do a jury trial unless someone has a big marital estate. And I can't give you a number. It's going to depend on the facts and the circumstances, but they got to have a hefty amount of money on the table to warrant spending what it costs to go to a jury trial. And I'm not going to tell you how much my jury trials have cost in the past. Not doing it. It's a secret. It would be discussed at a consultation, but they're expensive. And you just have to have a different level of detail. And honestly, the lawyers that are going to be great at it, they're going to be more expensive. It's an art. You get what you pay for. So if you've got a lot of money on the table, okay, these are people, business owners, investors, people that have got so much money at stake, and you've got the right set of facts. you need the lawyer that can come in, diagnose all of that and say, I think a jury trial is going to be the best way to do this. And all you do is when you want a jury trial, you just file what's called a jury demand into the case and no one can stop you. You get a jury trial as long as you file that demand. That's your right under the Constitution. So, it's something to think about. And it's something I think that needs to be more normalized in family law conversations. I think this is going to be a very controversial standpoint that I have. So I'd love to have someone come on and talk with me and debate me about why I'm not right. And I know for me, I am going to be doing more jury trials. I am going to continue on that path of achieving what's fair for people because the law allows for it. And if it takes a jury to do that and my client has the funds and it makes sense and we're not going to go spend more than the client's going to get and it's worth that risk, I'm doing it. So look out for that. And what do you do? How do you know if your lawyer can do a jury trial? Be careful. Be careful. You could go to a dabbler, someone that does different types of law, not just criminal, but they practice different types of law and they'll say, yeah, I've done jury trials. I'll take you, whatever. Careful. When you've got a very complex marital estate, you really do need a family law attorney. You're going to spend more money probably on somebody that doesn't know family law, at least really complex marital estates, if you don't get the right fit. And you want to ask questions like, have you done jury trials before? Where have you done them before? There's such a thing as a home team advantage. You want to be careful. And it will cost more money if you have a lawyer that hasn't done a jury trial in a specific county because every judge kind of does them differently. So you want to be careful. And the best approach is to select your roster of potential lawyers, have your questions. Have you done jury trials before? If so, where have you done them? Have you done them in this jurisdiction? Do you think this is a good fit for my case and why? And if not, why not? And start to gauge for yourself. Follow your intuition. Is this attorney ready to fight for me? Or do they want to take the easy way out and just tell me I'm going to only get 50-50 division of my estate just because that's what the judges are teaching them and it's easier that way, even though they don't have to do that under the law. It's just something to consider. And I'm not trying to make rainbows for everybody because I make it sound like this big, beautiful, we're going to get you more than 50-50. It's going to be fact specific and it's going to be determined at your consultation. And you don't have to file a jury demand right at first. You can wait and take some time to determine where's this case going to head. But I wanted to kind of unravel that and give you the standpoint that we have here at Hastings Shadmehry, which is don't back down. Don't be intimidated by a jury trial. Do what is best for your client and what makes sense under the facts and circumstances and go have fun in court and be a warrior. That's what we do. Thank you for listening. I hope that you have a great day, whatever you're doing, wherever you are in the world. Please come follow us at Hastings Shadmehry, Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, all the things, YouTube. Please follow us. Please send us a message. Tell me what you want to talk about. Be nice to me. Don't send mean things. Okay? Love you all. Bye.